right? Are we rewarding people who are bullies? Are we rewarding people who are known to be harassers? Are we rewarding people who are insubordinate,
Same.
Just corporate culture in general, it does reward behaviors like that. And I think under the guise of that, that types of behavior is what gets results, but it's actually the type of behavior that typically destroys teams.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kinsani and I bring you faith, education, wisdom, and lifestyle content. Please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. We are just a few weeks away from our mentorship day and we have some exciting guest speakers. I hope you guys have registered. We have Atlehan Govuza, we have Zawadi Dlamini, we have Keke Sibakeng, we have Naomi Muya, and I think there's so many more mentors on the day that will be there. And also one of our guests who is also a speaker on the day and also the guest on the channel today is Mbali Mzinyane. And I will just do a brief intro of Mbali. You might have seen her on her podcast, Wellness in the Workplace. And Mbali is an independent business consultant, podcast star, and workplace wellness content creator. She is an experienced marketing strategist with B2B marketing expertise in the information technology industry. Armed with a background in media and communications, her experience in various work environments has culminated into the launch of Wellness in the Workplace. Wellness in the Workplace is a podcast that aims to empower new and experienced professionals with insights and practical tools to navigate workplace dynamics through insightful and informative conversations. The podcast explores conversations with like-minded professionals about the realities of the corporate world, drawing insights from their own experiences and expertise to shed light on different workplace challenges. Bali, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the
Yes.
warm welcome. Yeah.
I'm so excited to have you.
Yes,
We've been trying to have something.
We have been. I think it's been about a year, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. But it's finally happening now, and we get to do it twice.
Yes, we get to do it twice.
Yeah, on
Yes.
the mentorship day, and obviously for this episode of your
Yeah,
podcast.
awesome. And
Yeah.
we've wanted to do it slightly more different at some point. We wanted to have a
Yes.
conversation on a book we're both reading.
Yeah.
But I guess today we're just going to focus on wellness in the workplace because I think it's
Yes.
important for young professionals that are not just entering the legal industry, but entering different industries as well. Yeah.
Yes. Now I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Awesome. So, Mbali, will you please just share a brief background about yourself, your childhood, and where you were raised?
Sure, happy to do that. So my name is Mbali Mzinyane, born and bred in Johannesburg, more specifically Soweto. And I just grew up in, a home that was very loving, raised by a single mom and a devoted grandmother. And my childhood experiences were just full of curiosity, being inquisitive, creative expressions in different ways. And then, I think my curiosity was really just, I guess, shown in what I decided to study post matric. I think as a child who had always performed well academically, there was probably an expectation that I would follow a traditional career path, expectation from family, also expectation from maybe peers and teachers. But I decided to go into something completely different, and I pursued my curiosity by studying a Bachelor of Arts in Journalism. Did that as an undergrad, did that for postgrad as well, spent a bit of time in the newsroom, but I think after a year or so in that space, I realized that there's more for me out there. There's more for me. And that's when I had a pivot into the tech space via graduate program, which was really looking for, professionals or young professionals with a different background really at the time, who would be in client-facing roles like sales and marketing. And yeah, I mean, I made it through to that space, and that's where the bulk of my corporate career really came in, and that's how I really honed in my skills and experience in marketing, specifically within the tech space. And then most recently, I mean, I decided to just venture out on my own and do some independent consulting, just as a means of managing my time, reimagining my life,
Sure.
and reimagining what my purpose is.
Yeah, that is so
So,
bold.
yeah, yeah.
That is
I mean, it
so
wasn't an
bold.
easy decision, you know, a bold decision, but not an easy one. But I think if you are living true to yourself, living true to what you believe you're called to do, then you'll find a way to, you know, make your skill set work for you. So that's the phase that I'm in right now.
Well
So,
done on that,
yeah.
Mbali.
Thank you.
Wellness in the workplace. The podcast is
Yes.
amazing.
Thank
I think
you.
it covers a variety of topics. You also have a segment, My Career Story. So if people are interested on that, they could literally learn about different careers from Bali's platform.
Yes.
You've had conversations with psychologists, I think, with a lot of different people who are able to help with wellness in the workplace. So what inspired you to start the podcast?
Sure. So, very early on in my career, I went through a workplace bullying situation, right? But at the time, I don't think I had the language to articulate what was happening. I think because I was still new to the corporate space, I assumed that, you know, I'm working with a difficult manager, I'm working with somebody who likes, you know, things done in a certain way. And because of not having the exposure to a corporate environment prior, but also not having the understanding and language to explain the dynamics in that space, I didn't know what was happening. I just knew I was frustrated, I was unhappy, I felt sidelined, sometimes even isolated, until much later when I, you know, came across material that really articulated my experience at the time. And I was like, oh, actually, I am going through a workplace bullying situation. And I think having come across that kind of information empowered me. It empowered me in terms of how I approach my relationship with that manager at the time, how I navigate that, and also in planning my next move or the exit plan or strategy that I needed to put in place. And so wellness in the workplace really is a culmination of all my workplace experiences, but B, it is the resource that I didn't have when I was going through that
so
at the
good.
time. So it is from a personal experience and a personal story, and it's just great to see that there has been resonance with my experience with other people, and pretty much providing a platform that, like I said, I didn't have at the time. Yeah.
So good. I think one of my first one of my first questions was, I'm new into a profession. I cannot tell or I cannot determine what unhealthy working conditions look like. And I'm not talking from a physical perspective, but from a, how do I say, an intangible, more dynamic, right? Like
Yes,
bullying or
yes,
emotional abuse. So
yes.
how would I be able to tell that I'm in a unhealthy work environment?
Sure, sure. So I think it starts with the culture of the organization, right? So being mindful of what culture is being promoted, is being rewarded, and is being prohibited within this company that I'm working for, right? Are we rewarding people who are bullies? Are we rewarding people who are known to be harassers? Are we rewarding people who are insubordinate, you know?
Insane.
And when you start taking note of things like that, then it gives you a depiction of what healthy and unhealthy actually looks like, right? And then also just being cognizant of your internal feelings and the feedback that your body is telling you about certain situations, because sometimes it is not anxiety, it's discomfort. And if it is anxiety, it's related to the fact that, you know, there's something that is wrong. It is your body alerting you of something that is not okay. And then also just, considering things like support structures. Do you have relevant support structures within, the business? Is your manager there to support you, to guide you, to help provide a space for mentorship to some extent, especially when you're starting out? Also just looking at, different team dynamics. Is this a team where I can express my thoughts, where I can express my perspective, where my views and opinions about workplace matters are acknowledged and are respected? And simply, am I respected, in the space? So those are things that are intangible, but can also just translate into more tangible situations. Yeah.
So, wow, Mbali, I think this is actually fascinating, not fascinating, but I am actually shocked that you said something about what does the workplace reward? Do they reward bullies or people who harass other people? And I never looked at it like that before. Because if I look at certain cultures, right, you'd see the people that climb the corporate ladder in certain work environments. It's not the soft-hearted people,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
it would be people who are bullies, right? And that would be seen as the perfect form of leadership within that work environment. But it's only now that you're saying it that I'm like, what? That is insane. Like, I've actually sort of seen something like that,
Yeah.
where for you to become to be seen as a great leader, you needed to have some sort of aggressiveness,
Yeah.
which I think was not necessary, or was not necessary to create to the success of the firm. You get me?
Yes.
Because the point
Yes.
is that you guys are working towards the same
The
goal,
common
which is,
goal.
yeah. So if it's
Yeah.
successful, the
Yeah.
approach that we're taking really shouldn't be whether we are more successful because we are aggressive. It should just be the result is there, right? Even if I'm soft spoken, if the result is there, what's the problem, right? So that's crazy, because I'm actually realizing it now that
Yeah.
this is something that I never even looked at it like that before. That you could look at how the company rewards people to see what kind of culture they actually create.
100%. And I think with just corporate culture in general, it does reward behaviors like that. And I think under the guise of that, that types of behavior is what gets results, but it's actually the type of behavior that typically destroys teams. And there's a distinct difference
So good.
between assertiveness and aggressiveness. And because the corporate space is very much about getting things done, a lot of people they work with a very aggressive energy and not realizing that you don't have to be aggressive to be assertive. There's a fine line between the two. And so maybe we need to relook and redefine how then can people show up assertively and be recognized without having to leave blood, sweat, and tears behind. So, yeah.
Okay. What is the common issue, since you've started with this type of work? Do you think contributes to unhealthy work environments?
Yeah, so like I said, I mean, organizational culture is at the top, right? So what types of norms and behaviors are prominent within, this culture? Secondly, when you look at leadership, you consider what is the leadership emulating? What are they modeling? What are the behaviors modeling? Because leaders in an organization actually set the tone for the culture. They set the tone for the behavior. And if you want to actually measure the culture of an organization, look at their leaders. And if the leaders are mindful of that and are cognizant of how their behaviors actually translate into the culture, then it means that there needs to be more responsibility in how they, approach workplace situations. Then, you look at another thing, if the culture is more about profitability and less about people, because the equation is usually lopsided in that it's profits over people and profits at any cost, sometimes leaving bodies behind. And I think that's a very dangerous approach to business, because when you think about business sustainability, you think about people. People are at the center of continuity when it comes to the business. And when you just shift your perspective and acknowledge that if our people are not well, then our business will not do well.
Exactly.
Then
Exactly.
that
So
then
good.
requires you, or it shifts your perspective rather. It shifts your perspective to then think that, okay, I need to approach how I engage my people, how I promote my people, how I reward my people in a different way.
So good. I love that. If my people are not well, the business is not well.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think a lot of corporates forget because there's so many people and
Yeah.
there's a few
Yes,
corporations.
100%.
They tend to think that people are replaceable. You know, we'll just get a replacement. You know, so I think at the top of it, you have a responsibility as an employee to take care of yourself.
Definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
How would I be able to determine if my boss is emotionally abusive?
Sure. I think emotional abuse is something that is hard to detect, and a lot of people are not aware of what that means. But things like neglect in the workplace is a big thing, right? And by neglect, it does not mean that they're leaving you to be autonomous or to be self sufficient. Neglect is genuinely there not being any care or consideration in terms of your progression, of your interest, of your development as an individual. When you look at your relationship with your manager or your relationship with your employer, it's a two-way relationship. It's a shared responsibility. There's things that you are accountable for as an individual, but as a manager or an organization, there's things that they're also accountable for. And so if they neglect their end of this shared responsibility, that is a form of, emotional abuse or abuse of some sort, because it means that you are not being supported, you are not being acknowledged, and oftentimes you are being isolated. Then you consider things like, manipulation, either in the direct relationship that you may have with your manager. And by manipulation, I mean that, where your livelihood is either explicitly or implicitly threatened by what the manager may be saying to you, or how they may be communicating or putting ultimatums. If you don't do this, therefore there will be this consequence. Or will I give you I will give you a warning or a second written warning, whatever the case is, if you don't follow through with XYZ. That is not a way of managing performance in the workplace. That is just pure manipulation and threatening. And a harassment to some extent, right? Where you are recognizing someone's vulnerability and dependency on the role that they're in, and you are using that against them and to get them to behave in a certain way. That shouldn't be the case. So I think, just things like that. Sometimes even just, insults that may come in the workplace. Sometimes they happen when it's just a one-on-one engagement. Sometimes they happen out in the open. Certain outbursts, if you feel like you constantly having to be walking on eggshells around your boss, because if you say something, your livelihood might be threatened. If you do something, your job is at stake. That is not healthy. And those are the things that contribute to that kind of abuse, or what we would call harassment in the workplace.
Sure. I'm thinking, so words like you will not get a promotion.
Yeah.
Or if you do this again, you're not going to get your salary.
Yeah.
You know?
That's literally it. Yeah.
That's literally it.
Yeah, when your livelihood is being threatened, when there is ultimatums to get you to behave or operate in a certain way, as opposed to there being a communication of, this is why we are doing this project at this time, this is the goal that we're working towards, and then if you don't deliver, the repercussion is that we won't meet this goal. That's a different discussion. That's a business discussion. So when now you are bringing my livelihood, my well-being at stake, and using that as a means to get performance or a behavior out of me, that's manipulation.
Okay, so is manipulation, bullying, and harassment in the workplace sort of like narcissistic traits? I think you had a conversation.
Yeah, with a psychologist. I mean, I'm underqualified to talk about narcissistic abuse in the workplace, but much of the conversation was speaking about different tactics, right, that people use in the workplace, or traits that narcissistic presenting people, because you don't want to diagnose them. So they present narcissistic traits within the workplace. And those are the things that are there, the emotionally abusive, isolation, manipulation, having a very calculated approach in interpersonal engagement so that they get what they want at the end of the day. Very exploitative type of relationship with the people around them, which is dangerous to put it blankly, and could be quite damaging to the well-being and the mental state of the people working with someone who presents in that way.
Okay. So I feel undervalued at my
Sure.
No, not that.
Not you.
This is a scenario, okay? I feel undervalued in my workplace.
Yeah.
How do I communicate this to my manager, for
Yeah,
example?
yeah. So I think when we talk about being undervalued, the question starts with, are you doing the job that you have been hired to do?
Okay.
Before you have any conversation where you want to be recognized for your value, whether it's in the form of a salary
That is so good,
or in
Mbali.
the form of a promotion or work opportunities, at the basic level, it is, am I doing my job well? Am I meeting the expectations that I need to meet in this role? Am I performing according to my KPIs? And if you're ticking all those boxes, then you have leverage, right? You can now have an evidence-based discussion with your manager where you have data that you can show them and
good.
say, this is what I did, this is when I did it, and these are the results that I've gotten. And given the fact that I'm performing this way and I'm not being recognized for it, can we have then a discussion in terms of how my value can be recognized and rewarded? I think, it can come across as entitlement if you don't do that exercise of just checking yourself first. Okay. So take a step back, reflect on, am I doing my job well? Am I doing what needs to be done? And then can I use that evidence to then have a conversation to motivate for my value to be recognized and rewarded?
Okay, so basically, what I'd need to do is, let's say I work at a place where we look at time basis type of work system where your time is linked to money. So billable hours basically. So if I'm able, so now I feel undervalued. The best approach would be for me to look at the amount of time I've spent maybe in the past 3 months in the office in billable hours, in the sense that I'm able to get money back for that time and present that to my manager and say, I feel this is how much I work, this is how much I'm making for the company, this is how much I'm currently being paid. So I think I'm being undervalued. Is that the approach that you are talking about?
100%. Because what do you have there? You have evidence, you have a track record over a period of time, and you have tangible results.
Okay.
Because that's the other thing, is that you don't want to just have a once-off, high performance and then use that as the basis of having that conversation. Let there be a consistent track record over a period of time that demonstrates that you are who you say you are.
Okay.
And on that basis, your value and your worth needs to be then reassessed, and you need to be considered for rewards and recognition.
Okay. And then I am, again, it's a scenario. I am struggling at work. I am not coping. I am exhausted. I am not okay. And I'm under a lot of pressure. How do I also communicate that to my manager?
So I always say that wellness starts with you, right? As much as it is a shared responsibility, but the onus is on you to make sure that you are well as an individual. So are you taking care of yourself? Are you using your leave days? Are you resting and recovering when you need to? Are you setting boundaries around your time and how you manage your responsibilities? Because all of those things contribute to your wellness at work. Then from a shared responsibility perspective, it is having then the conversation with your manager to say that I feel like there's a lot of work that's been assigned to me right now. Can we look at the possibility of having somebody else to support? I need to take leave because I'm not feeling well. Again, it's a self-assessment first before you are able to have that conversation. And you're also able to set then the expectations to say, I'm taking leave for X amount of time so that when I do come back, I'm well rested, I'm well adjusted, and then I can continue with what I need to do. So I think it's more about cultivating that ability to self assess and to know what your limits are so that when you communicate that with your manager, you communicate from a place of being informed, you communicate from a place of being empowered, and also you communicate from a place where you are able to manage expectations, right? I think as much as obviously we're prioritizing wellness and we're talking about sustainability and having sustainable careers, let us not forget the contractual obligations of our time and our roles at work. And so if you are able to then have those conversations within that context of acknowledging that I am being employed or I am employed by this company and my value looks like this in this company, but at the same time, I have to take care of myself. How do I have a conversation that is going to allow me to self-preserve, but also for me to be able to come back and deliver on what I need to do in
I
this role?
think too, there's one highlight for me with the entire conversation actually is how much responsibility we have on ourselves, which I think we forget. I realize that there's a lot of projection to the employer without a lot of reflection on ourselves. Guti, Kintani, you're not even taking leave. You're not even
Yes.
communicating that you're under
Yes.
pressure. So how is your employer supposed to know? So you're complaining about abuse, but you've
Yes.
actually never communicated that. You do not take leave. That's why you're tired. When you want
Overwork
a raise or
yourself.
an increase, you haven't checked your effort within the past 3 months or 4 months. Are you producing something that is worth any value, right? Do you bring value within the space? So I think that has been the highlight for me. I actually, yeah, that has been the highlight for me.
Yeah.
And just before we close off, we want to get a bit more personal with you.
Okay.
It's please share, what does wholeness currently look like for you?
Sure. Wholeness currently looks like rest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it currently looks like having that self assessment and knowing when to put my stop.
Okay.
I think I can only give to people, to situations, to my work if I am okay and if I'm well rested, I'm well adjusted. It's something I don't take lightly, especially in this season of my life. And also just being firm around my time when it comes to resting and working and having a healthier relationship with those two aspects of my life. So yeah, yeah,
Amazing. Our previous guest, Obi,
yeah,
she also spoke about the same thing about rest. So I think maybe
yeah.
this is a season for rest because everyone is just
Yeah.
talking about how wholeness for them looks like resting, and taking off that time. So that's amazing. What's your ultimate vision for wellness in the workplace?
Sure. So, I mean, I think when I started wellness in the workplace, I couldn't have imagined that it would have transformed or transpired into what it is today, right? But I've enjoyed the journey so much in that it's opened me up to a world of possibilities within myself, so much so that I had a different relationship with my work experience because of what I do on the podcast. But I think more than anything, my big, hairy, audacious goal is that I just want people to be more conscientious when it comes to how they approach work, right? I want people to be more empowered. I also want to have organizations to reimagine, what sustainable workplaces are and just contribute to a reimagined future of work and way of work. I mean, the work that I do right now, it's expanded into offering services for corporates, using insights, from the platform, but also from my personal research, and just engaging with industry experts. And so that provides a wealth of insight and data that you can then take back, and just have very constructive and meaningful discussions with leaders in businesses. So, yeah, my ultimate vision is just a reimagined way of work.
So good.
Yeah.
You've done so well. You've
Thank
done
you.
amazing work.
Thank
And
you.
I do believe that you've reimagined. You've already started reimagining the way of work just through the conversations that I've had with you and the one
Sure.
that we've had now. Um, I really feel like, oh no, actually, I'm learning so much. And I do not think I think work is amazing because work is a gift from God. And we shouldn't hate it, but there's a reason why we hate it. And I think part of it is because slavery is linked to work, right? So
100%.
we have traumatic histories. Our relationship with work is also linked to traumatic history or historical trauma, right? But I'm very excited for you to join us on the 28th. I think our guests will be so empowered as they navigate their legal professions. The one thing that is common within also the legal profession is some of this workplace or unhealthy traits. And I think a lot of young people do not know that when they get into the profession. So you're expecting that you're just going to become an attorney,
You make partner.
Yes.
Very easily.
And on the journey, your spirit is crushed a
Sure.
lot. So
Sure.
I want them to be empowered by the time they step into the profession. So we are so excited. We cannot wait to have you. And I think this brings us to the end of our conversation with Mbali. Guys, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe. This has been a beautiful conversation on wellness in the workplace. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.